What's up, guys? This episode is all about podcasts. If you want to get on more podcasts or get on your very first podcast, watch this YouTube video to the end, and we're going to give you lots of tips on how to make that happen. Let's get going. What's going on, YouTube? We are going to be talking about podcasts, and who better to talk about podcasts than the guy that we use and that a lot of you guys should talk to as well about booking podcasts, and that is Spencer Carpenter from Outlier Audio. You are a podcast booking agent, right?
Yes.
A lot of people watching want to be, maybe they want to be on their first podcast or want to be on more podcasts. You want to get the word out about something, right?
Sure.
That's why you want to go on a podcast, not because it's fun to get interviewed, but because you want to get the word out. Because good podcasts have lots of people that download their shows, and it's a great way to get your name out, to get people to hear what you're up to, and just a good way to elevate your brand. Spencer, tell us a little bit about what you do, and then let's get into like some great tips that people watching can hear about on how they can get on more shows.
I'm a podcast booking agent. I've been in talent representation for about 15 years. And when COVID hit, I decided I'd start helping talented entrepreneurs, investors, and business professionals get booked on podcasts. Oftentimes, people in those positions aren't really looked at like talent, and a lot of people don't understand they could be a subject matter expert. And so I help those people get booked on the podcast, and most of them don't understand that they have a story that's worth telling. It's not just that they could be the subject matter expert, but that they have passion that people want to hear about. And so I help bring that out of them. So that's the first tip, is understanding what it is you're passionate about, why you are in the space you're in, and how that can be delivered to the audience.
I want to underscore one thing. Everybody's got a story to tell. Everybody's got something to say, right? Mm-hmm. So let's all remember that. Justin, what are your thoughts so far?
Yeah, as a podcast guest, how do I even think about that? Like, I might have some varying interests, but how do I get it to the point that I can convey it clearly?
The great thing about the podcast platform is that, dissimilar to things like TV where you're expected to be super polished, it's okay to say and stutter a little bit, or maybe backtrack. It's very normal in the podcast platform, and it's preferred. The reason why podcasts are so popular is because it is an organic conversation, in depth. Or whether it's 10 minutes or 45 minutes, they like that it's very real. Someone isn't selling themselves. It's not an infomercial. They get to plug themselves at the end, but it is their story, and it's about giving. The giving part is what really helps the platform as a whole stand out. And so when your story also goes hand in hand with how can you bring value to the listener, which brings value to the host, then it's very easy to get booked on a podcast.
So that's interesting. So you're saying I can't just go on a podcast, Spencer, if I want to just go and like hawk my stuff and like be like a snake oil salesman and pitch and like plug my website and plug my offerings and my weekends and my courses every 5 seconds.
There's a few that let it happen. Most do not.
Yeah, right. I've actually have some. Yeah, you and I both have mutual friends that are podcast hosts that told me they've had folks on that tried that on podcasts, and they either didn't broadcast the show or shut it down. Because everybody wants to buy. Nobody wants to be sold.
Exactly.
Right? And if people want to buy something, it's because they're enrolled in it, they're excited by it, they see value in it. And they're certainly not going to get there by getting thrown up on it.
Right.
They don't want that. So what are some other tips that you want to offer anybody to get on either their first podcast or more podcasts?
Sure. So when I pitch my clients, I like to find out their passion, work on their story, and that sort of thing. But I really like to be able to present to the host 3 to 5 topics that are unique to that person. If I have someone come to me and I say, what can you speak about? They're like, well, I can speak about deal lead, finding deals and landlording. I'm like, well, you're going to be on a real estate podcast. Everybody can talk about landlords, right? What is it you do that's unique? And not every strategy is reinventing the wheel, but there are ways to make it sound good. It could be about your mindset and how you realize that you have a certain skill set that other people's don't, that gave you an advantage. Or it could just be a specific scenario that happened because of your systems in place. For example, I had a client that was kind of new. I started with him in 2021. He had only gone full-time in real estate in 2020 with a wholesaling business. At one point, he was on vacation, and he had $100,000 in wholesale fees come in. And so we were able to create the topic of how to make $100,000 while on vacation. It was nothing new. It was just that he had 3 well-trained employees.
Yeah.
One that could get the deal, one that could close the deal, and one that could sign the
But
contract.
that's an intriguing conversation.
Just the lead was able to get the thing, the host to say yes. But if that first line says, "I'm so and so, and I would like to come on to so and so show to speak about this," it doesn't matter how long the bio is, as long as you caught the reader with that first 2 sentences.
So it sounds like it takes some intentional planning ahead of time to figure out who you are and what your message can be, and how you can best serve that audience.
Sure. And if you don't know what that is, ask people. You could ask me, but you have people around you that can tell you your strengths and your weaknesses and point out things that you don't see about yourself. This is especially good for people that are introverts.
Mm-hmm.
Lots of people don't even think about podcasts when it's just a one-on-one or a 3-person conversation, and it's not super taxing on the introvert. If they can just have a conversation and let go of some of those things, they can be on a podcast and speak to thousands of people in a way that they wouldn't be able to do it in person. If they have too much issue with speaking to people in person, this is a medium where they get the same effect, but for 45 minutes rather than 10, and still have that same reach.
Yeah. And I just to underscore something that you already touched a bit, but I want to make sure everybody, you guys heard this. Something I learned in working with you is that you've created a 1-page pitch sheet about Matt Faircloth and why folks should interview me on their show. And it's just a 1-pager. So if you guys are doing this yourself, go and create a 1-pager about yourself.
I don't even use the actual PDF. I have just a short email. Because personally, I hate when people would send me 1-sheets. I have to click somewhere else. The links then don't work if it's not formatted properly. If I try to copy this stuff and it's not formatted properly, I can't copy it. Maybe it's breaking the normal PR model, but I stick to an email personally. Some people love the 1-sheet. It looks good. It looks good. 1-sheets look good. If you want to have one, have one. But an email works just fine.
Some will call it a pitch sheet or a press kit or whatever, but you're right, it is kind of old school to have this.
I've booked hundreds of interviews without any 1-sheet.
But you've got your media cut and paste that you use that just goes to the email. What I say is that when I go on people's shows, what they love, and this is I think a way to go on more shows, is to propagate the show you're on, right? Help them promote the show. So put it on your social media channels. Tell your friends about it. If you have a newsletter, put it in there. Get it out to your followers. Hey, I was just on Spencer's show or this XYZ show, and it's a great interview. You guys should all check it out. And if that interviewer gets 20, 30, 40 more downloads, they're going to see that they had a pop. They're going to see you promoted it, that you tagged them back in it and everything like that. And guess what? They'll probably have you back on the show, or they might recommend you to other people. And that's how you propagate. I mean, now you've got me on about a show a week, but it's not because just, I'm a good interview or whatever. It's because there's a track record of helping propagate and push these things out, and that it starts to feed upon itself. And then the more shows you go on, the more shows you end up on.
Being able to advertise the show you've been on, yes, to your point, helps the host, but it also is free content for your social media. It is great SEO. It is ways to show maybe people that are on the fence about your service or you, or people that have already hired you and you're now reaffirming their decision that you are an authority and that you're getting those invitations. Advertising it also a lot of times falls short because of the host. I'd say 95% of hosts fail to let their interviewee know that the episode went live. So if you keep an eye on that, if in the event that they don't send you that email letting you know, keep an eye on it, and then you're especially going to stand out, even though it's their fault. If you stand out because you actually promoted and kept an eye on it, that goes a really long way.
Becoming a great partner with them at that point.
Yeah. And don't forget, the interview is a one-on-one conversation, networking opportunity for someone that might also be able to bring you business. Most of these hosts don't do it just because they love talking. It's a way to get out there. Some are brokers, some are wholesalers. If you're looking to expand your network, you can do it just by being on podcasts, and there's so much reciprocal gain from doing that interview.
Let's talk about the sort of the end of the show. The host usually says, like, where can we hear more about you or what you're up to? How do I best prepare to answer that in a way that's not too pitchy, but also gets across that I want them to hit me up on the right channels?
Obviously, you don't want to, like we said before, you don't want to sell too much, but that is the time where if you can't think of anything else, you can let people know you have the course coming out, you are raising funds, you have a book coming out, whatever it might be. But you make sure you let people know where your website is, what social media you want them to engage you with. Don't tell them to go to your Facebook if you don't want Facebook messages. Mm-hmm. But if you want them to email you, you can drop it there. If you want them to DM you on Instagram, you can say that. You can even take the extra step, go to the host and ask, will you please put these links in the show notes? Most do. Sometimes they themselves are systematizing it and a little bit lazy. If you ask them, they will probably say yes. That is a time where you are allowed to sell yourself a little bit, but shouldn't be dropping out there what type of returns are going to get them.
It's like you call it an elevator pitch, right? It's a way to say concisely what you're about in 20, 30 seconds or less. And for the rest of the interview, just give value, have a great conversation with the host. The best podcast I listen to, you kind of forget the microphones are on.
One of my clients has built up a great coaching business since I started working with him. I don't even think in the end of it, he's even said that he has a coaching program open. Mm-hmm. He just says, come check out my website, follow me on Instagram. And there they learn about it.
It takes a lot of courage to do that. I think that the more, amateur way to do it is to promote, because they won't know unless you promote. Right. If you've got courage to know, listen, I got a good story to tell. People want to hear what I have to say. They'll find me. Right. And just give the means to do that on the show. We rarely, when I'm on podcasts, say, we're raising equity for this, and you should buy my book here or whatever. I say, listen, everything you can get on us is at our website, DeRosaGroup.com. Mm-hmm. And you know what? On that website, people can, they can learn to do passive investments with us. They can buy copies of our book. They can link over to our education, work through bigger pockets. It's all there, right? So one last thing, guys, and I think this goes without saying, make sure you got the right technology. If you're going to go on a podcast, you probably had guests on your podcast or they were there like a headset with like a wire.
Microphone sounds like it's from across the room. Do a quick Zoom recording, do a little mic check. Let's make sure that things will look and sound good.
Right. Get good video, good audio, because a lot of podcasts these days use video, right? It's on Zoom with a nice microphone. And so make sure you've got good video, maybe a little backdrop, and good audio, because that just sounds good, and you're going to come off nice and clean.
And there are lots of blog posts out there that just give you little tips you didn't think about. If you're going to add water, no ice. That ice will click around inside the glass. A fan with a chain will hit the lights go around. Just little things like that can make a big difference. Spend 15 minutes on any one of the blog posts. How to be a good podcast guest. It will do you wonders, and you'll be a pro before you even do an interview.
Spencer, if people want to hear more about what you offer at Outlier Audio, how do they get a hold of you?
Sure. www.outlieraudio.com, outlieraudio.com, and you can follow me on Instagram. It's just my name's @Spencer Carpenter.
Spencer Carpenter, good stuff. Check him out if you want to talk about booking for your show or consider a booking agent for getting your message out. That's what we got, guys. Justin,
thanks, man.
Thank
Spencer,
you.
thanks a lot.
Johnson, good being with you, brother. Hey, guys. Thanks for watching. If you guys like this video, here's another one you might like. Make sure you subscribe to this channel, like this video, leave a comment. Have a great and profitable week.